People's Machine, formerly JuiceMan3941. Welcome to episode 2 of the Gaming Roundtable. If it involves playing, then you know I got a subject to talk about. I want to be so longevity with it like I was with my Hunt Showdown gameplay and aesthetics that I was showing about that game, but I want to talk a little bit about these fucking reboots that are coming in this particular year. This all kind of started way back with Destiny 1, when Destiny 1 actually did their whole Taken King reboot. Now that game needed that reboot, and it became a much better game for it. Strangely enough, somehow Bungie murked it all up, and in Destiny 2 had to have like a soft reboot with its expansion Forsaken to give more gameplay improvements and whatnot. Forsaken was a hard reboot, it was a soft reboot, and Taken King was a hard reboot. We also had a relaunch, rebranding, whatever you want to call it, reboot of No Man's Sky. And while No Man's Sky Vanilla wasn't the best game on the world by far, even though I still liked its generally core gameplay, it became a much better game and is now more of a spacing MMO than anything. And I'm very happy that we got the game that they had talked about for 2 years. And thank you, Sean Murray, for delivering after all those bullshit lies that you told us 2 years ago. Now, this year we are getting no less than 3 major reboots, which is going to be the big reboot of Fallout 76, the Wastelanders update, whatever it's called, and it's supposed to be this huge, massive update, which is probably going to cause more problems than it solves. It seems like every Fallout 76 update screws that game up somehow. But we're going to get our NPCs, we're going to get to meet the Overseer, you're going to be able to do all this other stuff. I guess people will just have to start over with their major characters that are really high level if they want to see the beginning from the to the end. And they're adding a bunch of quality of life stuff, of course, and so it's going to be essentially Fallout 4, but online, which is what we really just wanted in the first place. I even heard they're even adding dialogue trees, so that's going to be really interesting to see if they can fix what's wrong with Fallout 4's dialogue trees. We're also getting a major reboot of Anthem. It might be called Anthem Beyond. It might be called Anthem 2.0, whatever you want to call it. And all they said was we're dedicated to committing to the game and blah, 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 blah. Basically, shareholders keep giving us money because, we screwed up, but they're never going to say that they screwed up. Anthem gets its reboot at some point this year, but we don't know when. Just like we don't know about the 76 update. We're not really sure when. We hadn't speculated. And the third game getting a bit, kind of a reboot launch too is Tom Clancy's Breakpoint, Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Now, I like Breakpoint the way it is now. The Terminator event was awesome and was a really, really, just had me really engrossed the week that it came out. It's a better game than Wildlands, and I love its loot systems and it's a very empowering feeling game, and I love the way it plays, feels, looks, and sounds. However, I'm just one guy. The People's Machine don't really mean anything in a hill of beans to these developers, and because the game did not sell very well, but sold kind of poorly, the people over at Ubisoft, you know how we feel about those guys, decided in their infinite wisdom, no, we're going to reboot Breakpoint and push all of our other titles back a year, and fine, because y'all just shoot stuff out that's unfinished. Now, all 3 of these games have the commonality of being a live service. And of course, we know how a lot of live service games go that way. I can only think of one live service game that actually did it right, and that was Final Fantasy 15. The one with Noctis and his cronies? Yeah, they did that one right, with DLC that was relatively cheap, and just every update that kept adding and adding and adding to that game. You could spend 300 hours in that game right now and never run out of stuff. That game is just fantastic. But let's talk about these reboots. See, and now I have a problem with the reboots for a couple reasons. I own all 3 games. Anthem's moment-to-moment gameplay and flying is stellar, but everything else aside, it kind of fell short. Now, I kind of want to say that I welcome a reboot of Anthem for the simple fact that maybe they'll add like 20 different helmets and 20 different arms and legs for every single javelin across the board, and all this stuff, and we'll be able to actually see the loot that we're picking up and not have to go all the way back to the forge to equip it, to jump back into the game world. Nevertheless, though, I kind of don't want them to do it, and I'm going to tell you why. Just like I don't think Fallout 76, I think they should cut their losses and devote more time to improving the creation engine all the way around before you start making your Starfield game, which is basically going to be, you know, compared to Outer Worlds, which is an amazing game, and or you're going to be or devote it to like the next Elder Scrolls, which you are working on. Save that money, give it to your employees. You know, don't crunch them and don't try to revamp a game that's already this broken. You know, but they're going to do what they're going to do. Breakpoint, I don't think needs a reboot, but because it's a live service and they have to recoup costs. Now, years ago, maybe not even years ago, but a few years ago, game companies, developers, and or publishers would produce, you know, anywhere from 11 to 15 games a year, and the total combined sales of those games would actually give them their revenue. Well, now that's why the middle market's gone. There's very few middle market games. It's mostly AAA and indie. There's a few, but not many middle market games. Now it's all live service, and we got to have a game that you can play for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, and you're going to pony up microtransactions with that, get all your money back, whatever. My issue with these reboots, these relaunches, these things they're doing, the revamping, the redoing. It's a redo, right? Like, everyone's just going to forgive you all for your BS that you've been spewing. All three of you all have been spewing for the past year. Oh, it's forgiven. We'll all jump back into Anthem, or we'll all jump back into Fallout 76, or we'll all jump... Nobody's going to do that, okay? You're going to probably relaunch these games during the busy holiday season of September or October, which we affectionately gamers call Broke-timber and Broke-tober, because, or even November, and you're just going to have all these new games and new IP coming out that we want to play, but you're going to ask us to come back to your old, broken, miserable games, even if they're vastly improved, and they are really good, because I own the three. I'm going to check them out. But the point is, are we all of a sudden going to get an influx of like 10 million players, so now everybody's playing them? It's unlikely that that's going to happen. I didn't get a reboot of Evolve, and I love Evolve, but I didn't get a reboot of it. See, back when game companies, a couple years ago, if a game got put out, it didn't sell well, they just said, fuck it, cut their losses, go work on something else. Now, I don't know what Turtle Rock's working on, but nevertheless, it's just something that happened. Volition cut their losses at Agents of Mayhem, and I loved Agents of Mayhem, but yes, they cut their losses, and that was that. Now with these live service online games, they have to reboot them. They got to cut costs. These games cost $100 million to make. We got to figure out what we're going to do. We got to get people to come back. But until that happens, nobody's going to come back. I go to GameStop and I saw Anthem brand new for $4.99. I saw Fallout 76 brand new for $9.99. Breakpoint still has a fairly decent price there, but they recently were selling it for $19.99, and it was a sale that lasted over 2 weeks in my neck of the woods. So again, these reboots are a slippery slope. We don't need every game that comes out that doesn't either do well successfully financially, but Fallout 76 and Anthem did well financially in its initial few weeks. Matter of fact, Anthem was the best-selling game of the month for that year. And Fallout 76, the first 3 weeks, it really sold well, and then it just died. But my point, and Breakpoint didn't sell well at all. But these are just little, well, okay, you know, we're still devoted to the game. They don't ever say they're sorry. They don't ever say, hey, we really screwed this up, man. We got to make it up to y'all. It's always some PR, answer, which we always get. And then what happens? Of course we know what happens. What happens is that they're going to reboot these games. So are all the developers going to do that? Are we going to get like multiple titles that come out and that just don't, fit the bill, not up to snuff, didn't exactly do what we wanted because there are all these online services and all this stuff? Are you just going to every time it doesn't happen, you're just going to reboot it? Oh, there's another 50 gigs on my hard drive. There's another 80 gigs. There's another 150 gigs on my hard drive. Because why? I don't mind so much the concept of the reboot. But if you screwed up this bad, do you really think all of a sudden everyone's just going to reinstall Anthem, or it's already installed and they're going to restart it up? Fallout 76 Breakpoint. Do you really think that's going to happen? Now, there is a fair amount of people playing Breakpoint because it's gotten better, but it's ridiculous. These reboots are terrible. And now developers are going to sit there and they're going to just reboot everything that fails. Anthem gets a reboot this year. Tom Clancy's Breakpoint gets a reboot this year. Fallout 76 gets a reboot this year. What's next? They put out a COD that doesn't do well, or a Battlefield that doesn't do well, or some roleplay game or something, and it doesn't do well, so you're just going to reboot it because, hey, everybody, come back to our game. Well, if you're not going to put your updates out for several months, by the time that these newer IP comes out, like the new games we want to play at the end of the year, September, October, November, right? Maybe one or two in December, why would we come back to your game? Why? What are you going to do for us? We gave you $60 and you gave us a shit product. You gave us a product that we could not refund. You gave us a product that most people were just lost their shirt on. Now, if I get a bad something, let's say I go buy I don't know, let's say a cable or electronic device or a blender or something from Walmart. If I could take it home and it doesn't work, I take it back from my receipt and I get my money back. But see, the game industry doesn't do this. You know what we get? We get reboots. We get reboots. Now, I'm going to tell you that I think that is a slippery slope. I don't want every developer out there just to do that just because. I'd rather BioWare cut their losses and devote time to the new Dragon Age, which they're talking about being like Anthem, which is, again, if Anthem didn't work, why would you make the next Dragon Age like that? Instead of javelins, we fly around on dragons? Seriously? No, that didn't obviously work with Anthem, so why would you do that with Dragon Age? That's a whole nother video right there. Why don't you devote time and just remaster the fucking Mass Effect trilogy? You know how many people would buy that if you just remastered? It's one of the games that were never remastered. We got remasters of fucking every other game, it seems like, but never saw the trilogy. Give us the trilogy right now on PS4, sell it for $30, or on Xbox One. I guarantee you it would sell. You'd make so much money off that. You could recoup that money and devote it to something else. Let Anthem rest. Just call it a day, right? But you're not going to do that. No, you're not going to do that. So the core team that worked on Anthem is working on another game right now, and a different team is working on this reboot. Here we go. More screw-ups, more mess-ups. Fallout 76, again, same thing. Just leave the game alone. Stop remastering Skyrim and leave 76 to die, right? And just work on Fallout 5. You know, work on your put that money towards Starfield. Put that money towards Elder Scrolls 6 instead of putting time and energy and effort into this. And Ubisoft, man, with Breakpoint's fine, but you're rebooting it. To be honest with you, again, don't devote those resources to that. Keep updating it, yes, but don't reboot it. I don't want to suddenly start the game and be like, oh, everything is different. They've changed a bunch of crap on the game. I kind of have to start over now. Great. Thank you. Thanks a lot. But I'm worried that developers are going to go down this path. They're going to see a game they put out. It's going to be a live service game. It doesn't do well. And they're going to be like, you know what? Let's just reboot it. And we'll ask players to come back. And worse, I really hope that none of these people decide to try to resell us. Oh, this is our new reboot, but we still want $10 from you so you can play it. I really hope they don't monetize their fucking reboot. That would be a travesty. Who cares about the reboots? Let the games go to the wayside. Update them ever once in a blue moon, just for shits and giggles, for the random couple hundred people playing them. and devote that time and resources back into another project or a new IP or back to the employees so that they're not burnt out. Give them money, whatever you got to do. I'm intrigued by the reboot for some of these games. I will check them out, but to be honest, if they didn't reboot it, I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. This has been episode 2 of the Gaming Roundtable. I am the People's Machine. Anytime you see Evolve playing in the background, it's because I have a subject I want to talk about. I will have another video coming to you tomorrow night. I'm going to show some gameplay on some games that I just recently purchased, and we're going to check them out tonight, and I'm going to play them for a little bit, and then tomorrow I'll give you my thoughts and stuff about those. Please subscribe to Unpaid Gamers. Check out Posthuman Guy's videos. Check out the People's Machine videos, formerly the JuiceMan3941. I am now the People's Machine. No numbers attached. I am People's Machine. Subscribe to my channel, and I hope you all have a wonderful night. And as always, gamers, good gaming.